Even if you've never watched a single bout of UFC, odds are you've heard of Conor McGregor. He's built his name in the octagon over the last several seasons. Making the headlines now is the fact that he is set to square off against one of the most dominant boxers ever, Floyd Mayweather Jr. In preparation for this showdown, we figured we'd share with you 20 important facts about McGregor. Now, before we come to blows, be sure to click those subscribe and notification buttons. That way, you're always in the know and we won't have to send Conor to remind you. Decision for UFC. So, how exactly does someone decide they actually want to fight in the octagon of the UFC? Sure, it's one thing to be an actual fan of the organization and another to eventually decide to fight. For Conor McGregor, however, it can be traced to one night. In January 2009, UFC 93 took place in Dublin, Ireland. Present at this fight was none other than McGregor. Now, by this point in his career, the Irish fighter had been fighting in MMA for around a year. It was this night at UFC 93, however, that convinced McGregor that he had the skills necessary to take it to the next level. Sight unseen. Of course, wanting to get a UFC contract and actually getting into the UFC are two totally different things. After all, who among us hasn't dreamed of playing for our favorite sports team? McGregor's path to the UFC was a bit different than most. In 2013, UFC President Dana White was in Ireland on non-fight related business. White began to notice that in every bar and location he traveled to, people were telling him to check out a little-known fighter named Conor McGregor. Out of the blue, White flew McGregor to the US. Then, after an interview, White signed him to a deal without ever seeing him throw a punch.
Love watching our videos, but looking for a more ad-free browsing experience? Take your video viewing to the next level and sign up for the Premium Network. You'll get the first peek at the newest content from not only the richest, but Screen Rant, The Taco, The Sportster, The Things, and many more. Thousands of your favorite videos in one place is a no-brainer. Click here to be the first in line for the premium.
Muhammad Ali. Thanks to his flashy style, mind games, and non-stop trash talk, Conor McGregor has often been compared to the legendary Muhammad Ali. In every case, the Irish fighter humbly downplays any such comparisons to the boxing legend. However, McGregor won't hold back by stating that Ali was the first real fighting star that he followed as he grew up. Given his presence both inside and outside the octagon, it's clear to anyone that Ali has inspired elements of this fighter's career, whether he accepts the compliment or not. Childhood beatdown. So we've learned why Conor McGregor made the move into UFC, but what was it that directed him to fighting in the first place? Some may think he was a boxing champion, or maybe even a family member that inspired him. Not so much. In fact, McGregor's pathway to professional fighting was a lot like the Karate Kids, just minus Mr. Miyagi and Johnny Lawrence. When he was a teenager, McGregor took a liking to an older girl, who just happened to have an older boyfriend. One night, the boyfriend and some buddies jumped McGregor Cobra Kai style and gave him a bad beating. That's when he made the decision to begin training. The real Rocky? As the Mayweather-McGregor fight shapes up for August 2017, all the big celebrities are picking their camp and voicing their support for the fighter. When it comes to celebrities with some type of fighting background, no one can dismiss Sylvester Stallone. This actor made his name playing Rocky Balboa, the scrappy underdog boxer who eventually rose to the top. So of course, we're interested in who the original Rocky is backing to win. Unsurprisingly, Sly says he's behind McGregor. The simple reason is that the Irishman is seen as the underdog, and Stallone obviously has a soft spot for fighters who aren't the favorites. Or a boa constrictor. For all the talk of McGregor being like Muhammad Ali, Rocky Balboa, or even Daniel LaRusso, nobody's asked the UFC fighter who he thinks he is. Yet when asked about his upcoming fight with Floyd Mayweather, McGregor's response was more about what he thought he was. You see, in hypothetically describing an MMA matchup between himself and Mayweather, the Irish fighter gave the undefeated boxer no chance of winning. McGregor said he would defeat Mayweather in 30 seconds by wrapping around him and strangling him, just like a boa constrictor. Yikes. Sparring with the mountain. We're pretty sure that if anyone asks Conor McGregor if he's afraid of the challenge presented by Floyd Mayweather, the answer will be a resounding no. Yes, he's cocky, arrogant, and has a record to back all of that up. Yet there is another large factor that could be boosting up his confidence. You see, McGregor was having a photo op with Hafthor Julius Bjornsson, who is better known as the European strongman and the Mountain on the hit series Game of Thrones. Always a competitor, McGregor actually started sparring with the massive 6'9", 400-pound Mountain. Despite the size difference, McGregor showed he really isn't afraid of much. Raised on football. If you've ever traveled around Europe, then you understand that Europeans are all about football. In fact, as a kid growing up, there's a good chance your family would cheer for a specific team and you'd spend most of your childhood playing. Conor McGregor wasn't that different. An avid Manchester United fan, McGregor grew up playing soccer and, according to sources, became an accomplished striker. Incredibly, if he had stuck to that sport, the UFC would have never found one of its biggest stars. Boxing background. As we know by now, that childhood beatdown Conor McGregor suffered caused real motivation for him to learn how to fight. Drifting away from the soccer pitch, the 12-year-old Irish kid took up boxing lessons at the Crumlin Boxing Club in Ireland. In contrast to Mayweather, who reportedly started throwing punches as soon as he could walk, this wasn't that young. However, McGregor was a natural at striking, and according to friends and family, he really took to the sport like a fish to water. For several years, he trained as a boxer, which probably explains why his strikes in the octagon are so lethal. A plumber. As we all know now, Conor McGregor didn't end up in a career as a soccer player or as a professional boxer. Incredibly, there was a third career route which could have taken the fighter on a much different life path. After his family moved to Lucan in 2006, McGregor started to apprentice as a plumber. After all, to survive in this world, you need a real job, and even his dad was initially skeptical that his son could break into professional fighting. Thankfully, McGregor decided plumbing wasn't for him, and he made the decision to drop it completely as he pursued his dream of fighting professionally. Solid relationship. A lot of what people know about Conor McGregor comes from what they see during his fights or through his social media feeds. Yes, he's good at fighting, loves to talk trash, and lives a life of luxury. Yet this UFC superstar also has a significant other that isn't in the spotlight. Her name is Dee Devlin, and she's been by McGregor's side for about a decade. Through thick and thin, she supported his MMA career, even quitting her job to help support his career. Today, she continues to help him train and manages his finances. In addition, there's also the small matter that she gave birth to their first child this year. His sisters. If you've ever grown up with older siblings, you know that it can get tough sometimes, especially when they decide to beat you up. In his family, Conor is the youngest of 3 kids. In fact, he had to grow up in a house with 2 older sisters. We don't know if this helped inspire his fighting spirit, but McGregor's older sisters can apparently hold their own. The eldest, Erin, is a professional bodybuilder who is just as ripped as her little brother. Middle child, Aoife, doesn't have the muscles, but she also isn't shy about posting countless images of her body on social media. Welfare. Whether UFC or heavyweight boxers, professional fighters can take home decent-sized payouts. Make it a headline bout with 2 of the biggest or most exciting names in the sport, and the purse can end up easily getting into the millions of dollars. This is the situation that Conor McGregor is in today. But it wasn't always like this. Unbelievably, the MMA fighter was still accepting social assistance up until his UFC debut in April 2013. In fact, on the night of the successful fight, McGregor himself jokes that it was only 1 week before that he had picked up his $200 welfare check. My, how times have changed. First on Forbes. Just weeks before his first UFC fight in 2013, Conor McGregor was collecting welfare checks. With UFC success, things changed dramatically. Working his way up the ladder, this Irish fighter was soon bringing in tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fight payouts. Fast forward just a couple years later, and this rising star made history by being the first MMA fighter to break into Forbes' top 100 highest paid athletes with an income of $22 million. Even before you include the potential income from his fight with Floyd Mayweather, the last 12 months have seen McGregor back on the Forbes list with an estimated income of $34 million. Big earnings. Incredibly, all of the money made by McGregor up until this point could very well pale in comparison to the potential purse involved in the Mayweather fight in August 2017. While Octagon success and endorsement deals have seen McGregor earn tens of millions of dollars a year, reported payouts for the upcoming fight of the century blow everything out of the water. However, while we'll tell you more about that in a bit, consider the insane endorsement deals that are guaranteed to come. Recently, McGregor signed deals with Anheuser-Busch and Beats by Dr. Dre. One can only imagine where we'll see his face popping up if he manages to defeat the undefeated Mayweather. A Bond villain. After George St. Pierre made an appearance in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, mainstream Hollywood has opened up to UFC fighters. For the 2015 James Bond film Spectre, fans could have actually seen Conor McGregor take on a role. According to the fighter, he was asked to audition for the role of a villain in the hit film. So, was he considering it? McGregor was interested by the offer, but ended up laughing it off. Right now, it's all about staying on top of his game and opponent. His losses. Nobody likes to lose, regardless of whether you're a professional athlete or taking on your little brother on the PS4. Conor McGregor is absolutely no different. In his professional career, he has only ever been beaten 3 times. Interestingly enough, not one of them has been because of a knockout or a TKO. All 3 losses were to submissions, which, if you're unfamiliar, are basically moves that either make you pass out or put you under incredible pain from twisted arms or legs. Since his fight with Mayweather involves no grappling or submission moves, it makes the whole encounter that much more unpredictable. A key moment. Let's stop for a minute to consider that McGregor's career could have ended almost as soon as it started. Before UFC and Cage Warriors, this Irish fighter was battling it out in the now defunct Cage of Truth series. After winning his first 2 fights, McGregor was dealt a loss in just his 3rd professional match. It was a massive blow to his ego and motivation. McGregor stopped going to training and, according to his mom, was mixing with the wrong crowds. She got in touch with his coach and trainer, John Kavanagh, who tracked down McGregor and had one of those career-defining talks that got the fighter back into the game. Whatever Kavanagh said worked, and it worked really well. Fists of Fury. In terms of record, Conor McGregor definitely has some notable trends. As we've mentioned already, he's never been knocked out and only lost to submission moves 3 times. At the other end of the spectrum, the vast majority of his 21 professional wins have all come thanks to his 2 fists. So, just how deadly are his punches? Well, before UFC, he knocked out 2 fighters in under 10 seconds. At UFC 194, the much-hyped fight between Jose Aldo was over in a record 13 seconds once McGregor's fists had landed home. A huge fight for the bank. The Mayweather-McGregor fight isn't just huge because of the 2 fighters involved, it's huge because of the massive purse that the fighters will be handed. Early conservative estimates suggest that McGregor could walk away from this fight with at least $75 million. Others have suggested that figure could go as high as $100 million in what is being touted as the fight of the century. Either way, whether he wins or loses, the trash-talking Irish UFC fighter is guaranteed to make more money in one night than twice the GPD of the Pacific Island nation of Tuvalu. For now, that's all the Conor McGregor facts we have for you. If you're still in the fighting mood, then feel free to check out some of our other entertaining and informative videos. From fighters to embarrassing moments in sports, we've got you covered. All we ask in exchange is that you be sure that you've clicked that subscribe button so you're always on top of our latest releases. We'll see you guys around. Bye for now.